stitching, like a blanket stitch along the upper edge of a piece of fabric, it can be hard to make sure that all of your stitches are the same distance apart. Now there's a couple ways that you can make sure that they are all consistent, and that is by marking your fabric, but that can get a little bit tedious and time consuming. Also, if you aren't sure whether your marking tool that you're using can be removed from your fabric, it may not be something that you want to do. So a quick and easy tip that you can do is to actually make the marking on your finger rather than on your fabric. Now, what finger you mark and where you mark it will depend on how you hold your fabric, which is a little bit different for everybody. You kind of hold your fabric whatever is most comfortable for you. So before you make any marks, if you're going to do your stitching along your fabric, just go ahead and grab your fabric and hold it how you would hold it if you're going to stitch. Now for this one, I'm going to be running a blanket stitch along the upper edge of these pieces of fabric. So this is how I would hold my fabric. So my marks I would want right here on my index finger because it's the closest to where I'm stitching. So all I would do is take my ruler and sort of hold my ruler like I was holding my fabric, and I can make some marks on my finger. Now if you have a smaller ruler, it might be easier to do that, or even just hold the end of your ruler like this. And say we want our stitches to be fairly spaced out. We want them right around maybe an 1/8 of an inch or something. So I'm going to take and on my finger make these little 1/8 of an inch markings. And you may be able to get away with just doing 1 or 2 marks, but I like to have enough that I don't always have to move my hand with every stitch that I make. Now I can go back to holding my fabric like so, and now I'm ready to do some stitching, and I know that if I do a stitch on my fabric, everywhere I have this mark on my finger, that my stitches will be consistently spaced along the top of my fabric like so. And again, since I've done several marks right along my finger, I don't have to move my finger with every stitch that I'm making. So I can get about 3 or 4 in. Do another one here. Grab my thread like so, and I would continue all the way along. I have a little loop, that's okay. And so you can see now I've gone to this mark here. Now if I want to keep stitching, all I'm going to do is move my finger, line my last stitch I just did up with one of my marks further in on my finger, and go ahead and keep stitching. So you can see how this is a quick and easy way that rather than having to make all of these marks all the way along the top edge of my fabric, I can simply make the mark on my finger and use that to line up my stitches as I go. So grab your pen, grab your ruler, make some marks on your finger, and easily space out your stitches the next time you're doing some hand stitching on your project.